In this video, we're going to talk about academic English. After all, you are taking EAP 1620, and EAP stands for English for Academic Purposes. So what is academic English? Why are you studying academic English? And we're going to talk about the origin of the English language. So what is academic English? Our everyday English speech comes from Germanic. It has Germanic origin. It's not German. It's Germanic. We'll talk about Germanic origin and language later. Academic and government language is based on French, Latin, Greek word parts, such as roots, prefixes, and suffixes. So academic language has words that contain Latin or Greek roots or prefixes or suffixes. A survey done by Joseph Williams shows that out of all borrowed words, 41% of those borrowed words come from French, and 15% of those borrowed words come from Latin. He examined 10,000 words taken from several thousand business letters. Now, you cannot learn all academic vocabulary, but you can learn Latin and Greek word parts in order to approximately guess the meaning of unknown words. And also, in order to be dictionary free, you can always use context clues. We'll talk about context clues in our next lecture. Let's look at some examples of everyday speech and academic speech. So let's look at the everyday word as good. It's a Germanic word. An academic word would be beneficial. If you look closely at the word beneficial, and if you speak Spanish or French, you probably recognize the root bene. Bien, it means good. So in everyday language, you would probably say, drink milk, milk is good for you. But in academia, you would rather say the word beneficial. Reading every day is beneficial for EAP students. Let's look at another example, fake name or nickname. And the academic word for this is pseudonym. It has two roots. Pseudo means false, fake, and nym means name. You probably know some other words with the same root nym. Synonym, antonym. Another word, talkative, and the academic equivalent would be loquacious. Comes from the root loco, talk and speak. So why is academic vocabulary important? Why are you taking EAP classes? Well, academic English is used in colleges. Students need the specialized vocabulary in classes because they will see those words, vocabulary, and expressions in their textbooks, and professors use academic vocabulary. And who writes those textbooks? Exactly, professors. So you will need to understand your professors' lectures and textbooks. You will need academic English if you want to get a good job. One of the trends for employers nowadays is to give the candidates a word list to describe themselves and the job they're applying for. And plus, it gives you strong vocabulary for reading and understanding your textbooks, your study materials. And of course, it helps you to write about the subject. So whose language is it anyway? Where does the modern English come from? The foundation of the English language is Germanic. In the 5th century, English was brought to the eastern coast of Great Britain by Germanic settlers, the Angles, the Saxons, and the Jutes. Like many other languages, English has gone through many changes due to many factors, but mainly because various invaders of the British Isles. The history of the English language was affected by 3 big invasions: the Christianization, the Vikings, and the Normans. The Christianization of England introduced Latin starting in the 7th century, and Latin words were used in the realm of educated people. Latin became the official language of the administration. The list includes words like altar, angel, candle, disciple, palm, pope, priest, relic, rule, schrift, shrine, shrive, cap, silk, radish, dew, oyster, lobster, marshmallow, circle, legion, talent, and many more. By the way, do you know what this word means? Google. You might see it again. The Vikings. The Vikings, stereotypically described as violent brutes, pirates, merchants, warriors, and explorers, spoke Old Norse. It's modern Norwegian, right here, Danish, right here, and Swedish. And by the way, the Vikings never had hats with horns like at Disney, you see. Notwithstanding Old Norse and Old English have a similar Germanic origin, Vikings brought many new words from the Old Norse language to England in medieval times. Viking lived in the north, in Scandinavia. Right here. Consequently, the loan or borrowed words in English reflected their lifestyle and origins. Anger, bag, dirt, fog, hell, hit, husband, knife, raft, scare, stake, and many more. Most English words begin with th, thrift, thrust, they, there, then, and words starting with sk. Skirt, sky, skill, skate, skull, skin originate from Old Norse. Many common English names come from the Vikings. For example, Eric and the addition of the patronymic son at the end of a word. For example, Anderson is the son of Anders, or Jackson is Jackson's son. Let's stop here for a second and look at the word patronymic. Do you know what it means? I bet you do. If you stop and think for a second, let's closely look at the word parts of this word, and that's what you should do every time you come across an unfamiliar word. You see patronymic. Have you seen the root nym somewhere before early in this lecture? That's right. When we talked about the word pseudonym, synonym, antonym, the root nym means name. So whose name is this? Patro. Does it sound familiar? Padre, padro. That's right. It means father. So patronymic is the father's name. So in some cultures, the second name comes from the father's name. For example, my second name is Viktorovna. My dad's name was Victor. So Victor is my dad's name. Viktorovna is the suffix that means female. So my brother's second name is Viktorovich. Again, Victor is our dad's name, and Vich is the suffix for a male. And the French-speaking Normans. The French-speaking Normans had the most significant impact on the spoken and written English and left the most extensive collection of borrowed words because of much longer occupation. The upper class adopted the French language, whereas the poor retained their Germanic. For centuries, French was used as official language in England. And here is a brief list of errors that have French borrowings. You will see these words in subjects as state, U.S. government classes, business classes, business administration, literature, Comp 1, Comp 2, or humanities. Here's another class, art class or humanities class. Social status. Again, it's U.S. government, management, and of course food. We all love food. We all love French food. And I'm sure you are familiar with a lot of these words. And of course, the French borrowings affected the word parts, like suffixes, for example. So let's stop here again for a second and think about how the language affected people's life. So the upper class had to speak Latin or French, and Latin and French used to be the main language of their rich and nobles and administrations. So, and the poorer class still spoke the Germanic language. So there was a gap. There was an obvious gap. And how do you minimize this gap? That's right. You go to college and you learn the new language to minimize this gap. After all, that's why you came to college.